Okay, the time is 7 o'clock. Everybody please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, as customary, I will introduce the board. Lucy McConaughey, we got Jim Catella, Bev Kennedy. To my right is Betty Ann Peck. She's not here this evening. Kristen Hanowitz, Kara Mordowanik, and our alternate Tracy Rappa is not with us, along with Tom Schutte or Scott Lazurick. And I am Chairman Richard Demko. Welcome. We'll move to item number 3, public comment. Our first public comment of the evening, we will have 2. So our first public comment, going once. Just state your name and
Evening.
address, position for the record.
Teresa Conroy, 177 Skokrat Street. I just have 2 comments I wanted to make. I've been to a couple of your board meetings, and I'd like to, in the future, if you could, on your agendas, it's just pretty much the same agendas for every one of these workshops. If we could list the department that's presenting that evening so that the residents have a better understanding of who's presenting that night and if they wanted to attend. And then the other part is, I think pretty much the budget book was complete, except for IT and the first Selectwoman's budget. If those could be made available beforehand, so if you're doing public comment, you have an opportunity to review and see if you do have any questions. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Both are noted. Thank you. Any other public comment? Going twice? Going 3 times? All right, our first public comment is closed. At this moment, I would like to welcome Seymour First Selectwoman Emery Dragonis to the podium to present her 2025 to 2026 fiscal year budget.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Tonight I'm going to talk about facts, not opinions, thoughts, or feelings, just the facts as to what's going on with our budget in the town and the state. Before we start, I want to remind the board and everyone out there that's listening, I know and I understand you know about the budget process, but there's a lot of people watching out on YouTube that do not understand how our budget process is done. So I want to make sure the residents understand. The process actually begins in October with the town departments heading to evaluating their current budgets to determine where they are, what is remaining left to do in the year, and any emergencies that may happen, what new mandates are out there, either funded or unfunded, what may have come up or what may come up. The departments gather ideas for capital improvements, additional staff, town growth, etc. That's all what they're doing from October to December. All departments meet at the annual budget summit, which we hold in the end of December, beginning of January, and we invite the superintendent and the business manager, even though they are not part of the town. They are part of the town, but they are not part of the town department. They are their own separate entity. To discuss the departmental projects' needs, wants, and potential grants that are out there, and finally to share their potential budgets. This is a great way to learn about what is the needs in all departments and where we can help each other and potentially share resources to get items done at a potentially lower cost. From the summit, the department heads back to work on tweaking their department's budgets before submitting them to the town clerk. The first Selectwoman's budget or the first select person's budget does not get submitted until the Board of she presents it or they present it to the Board of Finance because it is constantly being worked on up until that day. Back to work. The town clerk. I sit with the departments to see where we can cut and if needed. From there, the departments present their budgets to this board. As the board knows, all the department budgets, my budgets, and the Board of Ed are suggested budgets, or as the charter calls it, an estimate of the needed appropriations. This board shall file a proposed budget to the town clerk by April 1st. The Board of Finance will hold an annual hearing before April 10th. The Board of Select Persons shall call an annual town meeting no later than May 1 to recommend changes to the budget, revenues, debt services, and legal obligations at the annual town meeting. The Board of Select Persons will then forward this onto a referendum. I will tell you, I didn't put any extra money in the budget for more than one referendum, so Demko, don't butcher my budget again. Butcher it the first time. As you have done in the past 5 years, right? Please try to make it so we only have one referendum to save money. I am aware you all are aware of this, but I want to make sure our residents watching understand the process, as the process is in front of the Charter Revision Commission, and we hope it is a suggested change that the residents will vote on later this year. As you know, the town was required to assess our properties 1 year early. The town had no control over this, and when we asked if the state could push it back, the state told us no. As you know, properties were assessed 40 to 60% higher than what we thought they were worth. This was a sticker shock to all of us and caused the residents to be confused about the taxes and how much they would go up. Residents were taking the new assessment and using the current mill rate at 36.4 to determine their property tax, and were very upset about the number they were coming up with. I also had a slight heart skip when I saw mine, and as everybody is now aware, thanks to a particular paper, I am a single parent, putting a child through college, paying mortgage, car taxes, utilities, and groceries. The grand list, which includes residential, commercial, and motor vehicles, all shifted with the assessment. There is philosophical shift happening in Hartford. The majority agrees to make a decision without questioning the impact on the municipalities. We are fortunate to have a state delegation with whom we are in constant communication and ask how this will affect our community. The recent change in Hartford is lowering the mill rate for motor vehicles, removing the tax on trailers for businesses only, and increasing the percentage used for home assessments. The state goal seems to shift the financial burden onto our homeowners. Now I'd like to walk everyone through my suggested budget and some of the items I looked at to help create it. Let's start with our foundational pieces. Those of you who've watched the State of the Town will recognize these slides. We'll go over our fund balance. No problem. Our fund balance policy, as you all know, is to stay around 10%. We are currently around 8.97, and we are projecting a small surplus for our fiscal year 25. As you'll see, our percentage of the annual budget, going back to 2015, it goes back all the way to 9.61, 10.87, a little over in 2016, 2019, 11.18, 2020, 11.17, 21, 11.13, 22, 9.87, 2023, 9.23, and 2024, 8.97. So we are staying where we need to be with fund balance. Our fund balance is strong. Our debt services. We continue to have decreasing debt services, which is good for S&P, as they want us to see reinvesting in our town. Our community is our biggest asset. Our fund balance is strong, and our debt service is even stronger. As you will see, we started off in 2015 at 9.34, and at 2026, we're at a 4.7. So that's very good as we're going out and looking at funding to do our roads, investing in our schools. S&P wants to see a small debt service because with that, we are investing in our town. S&P gives us our rating for that, and when they see us investing in our town, that is when they'll let us take out money at a lower rate or bonding at a lower rate. The annual property tax. We should not focus on the mill rate. We should focus on the tax increase. We had 2 bad years due to issues uncovered by the Board of Ed. However, as you can see, we are now normalizing the property tax increase, which is a stabilized between 2 and 2.5, which aligns with what S&P wants to see. S&P says 2 to 2.5 as you're reinvesting. I keep saying reinvesting because that's what they want to see. It's like ourselves. We reinvest in ourselves. We continue to improve in ourselves, either mentally, emotionally, physically. Our house, we keep improving in that. We improve in our kids through our school system. We improve our roads. We improve in our town, and people want it. We invest in ourselves, and people will invest in us. Okay? Budget increase. This is how we spend our money. Going back to 2013, 3.1, 2014, 1.38, 2015, 3.1, 2016, 2.68, 2017, 2018, very low, 0.61. I think those were years with no inflation, 0.10, and then 2019, it was a flat budget. 2020, 2.10, sorry, 21, 1.2, 22, 1.8, 23, that's when we had the anomaly, 5.40, 2024 was 2.93, and 2025 was 3.3. So we're starting to come down to where we need to be. And this is where, the budget increase, this is how we spend our money as a town, right? The blue is the Board of Ed is the blue, it's the overall budget, and the yellow is the percentage of the overall budget. You guys should have a packet of this with you. Let's go start looking into the revenue. So just to let you know, they're in brackets because that is how revenues are shown in the accounting world, in brackets. State government revenue is the governor's number, and we will not have a final number until June when Hartford finishes, state revenue, thank you. When Hartford finishes their budget, that's when we'll have our final number. I want to make this board aware that we will lose the municipal vehicle state reimbursement for fiscal year 27, which is next year. We will need to replace $818,900, which equals approximately 0.68 mils. We will discuss this later in the budget. The building inspector revenue is up because the new software makes pulling permits easy, but more importantly, people are investing in their homes at a historical level, which means they are investing in Seymour. The police admin is being driven by Route 67 project and the Bungie Road project. For those that watched the presentation last night, the town engineer stated the police budget is $600,000 just for that project alone. Again, that is what the contractor will be paying into that budget. One big thing, as you will see, is the investment earnings are up due to our finance director, Jay Vieira. As you can see, we budgeted for $350,000, and we are currently at $60,831. We have, that is because of the way Jay did the revenues. He takes the money and he puts it all into a swoop account where it gains massive interest, and then when it's needed, we pull it out to pay the bills. Okay. So thank you, Jay, for thinking of that. We have taken into consideration for next year the potential interest rate fluctuating for next year. Okay. Any questions so far on that? No. Let's go on to expenses. Thank you. So as you know, every board has presented to you already. Board of Finance, contractual increases, auditing, the OPEB valuation, town meeting, public hearing, that had stayed the same. Probate court stayed the same. The first Selectwoman's office, it's up 1.47 due to contractual obligations. Economic and development, you'll see that the salary for the director has been taken out. The board secretary fees have been taken out. We have put $20,000 in other professional services. The $20,000 in other professional services is to pay engineers for when we get grants, when we have projects coming in, or if we need them to do something for a business moving in, we can pay the engineers out of that because grant money cannot be used to pay engineers, or if we need a study done, it's coming out of there. The spring, the decorative banners that the downtown, the culture and arts, and the events come out of that. So it's a $1,500. That stayed the same. Same thing with the spring planting and budgeting and landscaping. So that budget is actually down 69.33%. I looked at the wrong column. The register of voters, as you heard to Elise, there's money in there. She had to put additional money in there for her. The 3% that she put in, I did not put the 3% in for her. I left it flat because we have to make sure that we have enough money in there for early voting. Thank you. Okay, so their request was a 4.18. General supplies is 2.110. Okay, finance department. You'll see that for regular employees, that's actually up because we have hired a full-time AP person. Before it was just the payroll clerk, which was part-time, was doing the payroll clerk's position, and she was doing the AP position. So we now have a full-time AP person, and we have a full-time benefits and payroll clerk. The payroll clerk does all the payroll for the town, the police department, Public Works. She also helps the HR director with all the health benefits, onboarding, any changes in payroll deductions, any changes in health benefits. So those positions are in there. On to the tax collector. The tax collector is up contractual, just as Dana stated. The only thing we reduced in that was the travel. She had it for $350, I put it for $150. Those are for classes, that's because we can't have was having the other assistant going traveling as well. We put it, in speaking with her, we put it down to $150. General supplies, we kept the same. So that was that. Town treasurer is the same. Town assessor, you'll notice that we have that at the 89,000 because that is an open position that we are hiring for. So we put it at what the starting rate would be. The next change would be education, meeting, and seminars. That stayed the same from what they wanted. And hold on. Gasoline and oil is changed from 400, oh no, that stayed the same, I'm sorry, that was up 300%. Only because the auditor, the new person will be going out, the new assessor will be going out and looking at things. Sorry about that. Town council. The town clerks, we kept the same in the town clerk's end of it. Oh, we also have a floater, sorry, I talked about that in the finance department. The town clerk's a tax collector and the tax assessor were all asking for a floater. What we did is they hired a permanent person because now the town hall is open at lunchtime. Before we would close from 12 to 1 and it was an inconvenience for the residents. So now we're open from 12 all day long, from 8 to 4:30. And what this person does is they'll cover an office. Even though the tax collector has 2 people in it, the town clerk has 2 people in it, but if someone is out sick or it's during a busy tax time, then there's always another person in there to be able to take their lunch. We can't ask them to take their lunch at their desks and to work because of the union regulations, right? So everybody has the floater that they need. Okay, printing and legal has stayed the same. Town planner actually went down from 65 to 55,000. IT department, you can go all the way down to the bottom of that. You will see that there's a 16.77% increase in the IT department. That is because, as you know, we are taking all departments, IT, and we're putting it into, except for the Board of Ed, we're putting it into the IT to put it where everything belongs. Anything IT driven, from computers to support, software, hardware, it's all going into the IT line to show that it's the right line as to where it needs to be. So that's why it's up 16.77%. Otherwise, he would have been lower. He wouldn't have had an increase. I think he would have actually had a decrease. Go down. Town contributions, Derby Historical Society is, we give them, over the years, we were giving them 5,000. They requested 5,000, we give them 2,500, and that's because our school goes there and they do the field trips there. So I think it's important for our kids to learn about the Derby Historical Society because Seymour did branch off from them. Valley United Way, we gave them 1,000. Everybody else stayed the same. Everybody else stayed the same on that. Recreation, Babe Ruth is no longer with, we no longer have a Babe Ruth, and Pop Warner has left. We no longer have a Pop Warner. So we were not asked by the people that have taken over Pop Warner, so we did not put any money in for them, so that has been removed.
Just to clarify with the Pop Warner thing, there will still be youth football. They just moved into a different organization. So, just to put that out there so people don't think like,
Okay,
oh
so
no.
there's still gonna be a youth football?
Yes, there will still be.
Okay.
Yes, it's a different organization now.
We were just told that Pop Warner has left, so.
Yes.
And we received a letter every year for what they're looking for, and we have not received a letter from them.
Okay. Yeah,
So we can
it's
always add that.
pretty much the same as Pop Warner. It's just different organization now.
All right, we can always add that down the road. That's fine. The chief of police, onto the police department, the chief of police, per his contract, per the deputy chief's contract, which, the Board of Police Commissioners handle, stayed the same. He has gone up 0.88%. And I cut it 0.86. What I did is because there is no longer an SRO, that is a car that is sitting at the high school that is now being able to be used by the police department. And now we always take one person out, for work, just for workers' comp. And we cut the overtime. And before anybody comes at me for that one, I did sit down with the chief and talked it over with the chief, and he was fine with that.
Okay.
If I made any cuts to a budget, it's because I've spoken to the departments.
Thank you for
Communication-
clarifying that.
Thank you, no problem. Communication, stayed the same, 1.05. Emergency management, stayed the same. That stayed the same from when they presented it to you, as well as the ambulance, where the ambulance didn't present because they're not a town department, but we still have to give them money. I increased it by 0.34. Actually, I took away from VEMS. VEMS was asking for 45. I gave them 35 because we're trying to work with there's double billing going on, Seymour Ambulance billed and VEMS billed. So we're trying to work out a deal where there's only one billing so that the the Medicare and Medicaid pay for that one bill and they don't receive two bills and get very upset about it. So we're working on that. Lake Authority stays the same. Fire Department, is what the chief had asked, but I took out of his repairs and maintenance. We dropped him, he asked for 85, I gave him 65, for repairs and maintenance. And that was the only change there, as well as the machine and equipment from OSHA. He asked for 53, I gave him 49. So that's a change there. Fire marshals, stayed the same. Water and fire hydrants, I really can't touch that, and I don't touch that because if a water main breaks or that's service, and that's under him. Town operations and buildings, we cut overtime from 16,250 to 10,000. The water went down 20,000. Repairs and maintenance, I'll talk about that later on. It went from 110 to 85.5, and that is, when we get into the library, I'll talk about that. I think that's the only other change. So that was a change of 5.79%. On down to town buildings, utilities. That stayed the same. Town engineers stayed the same. Office of Code Compliance. Keep going. I dropped that down to 5.63. My change in the salary per diem, and that is when our building inspector is on vacation, he calls somebody in. So we knocked that down a couple of days. As professional association fees are in there, as required, and we knocked down some money on the printing and binding. What we're trying to do is when we send out the packages to the boards, the planning and zoning, and the planning and zoning appeals board, is have it all done electronically, and then they can print, and that saves us some money there. On to Department of Public Works, I believe the only thing we cut there was a little bit of the overtime and snow removal, which I hope I didn't kick myself in the butt from that one after this year. But I'd rather us be able to grab it from the general fund if need be and not overtax the people. Keep going down. Highways and materials, we stayed the same. Potholes, repairs is the same. Street lighting, I brought that down a little bit. They had 165, I brought it down to 150. Transfer station, we kept the same. Waste collection and recycling, its contract, we kept that the same. Same thing with the Valley Health Department, the dog watering, and the NV cog. We kept that the same as well. Community Service Department. I took out of their repairs and maintenance. We took some money out of there. Go down. As well as their general supplies, because a lot of their supplies are coming in through grants that they receive. So they were initially asking for a 6.12 increase, or 577,617. I gave them a 5.02%. Down. The culture and arts, kept them the same. Parks stayed the same. The library. What we did with the library is, after hearing Suzanne speak, the librarian director speak, and going through, which you guys all have copy of, the I can't think of the name of it. The Worcester and the Hamel, right? Yeah, but I was trying to think of the name of it, I'm sorry. So, on the Worcester account, it's the benefit and maintenance of the free public library. And what they were asking them to pay for out of this was their oil. So, after speaking to Suzanne and seeing what the account said for the Worcester, we said, all right, well, we're gonna put that into your account, but we're gonna take the 15,000 out of for what they wanted for their oil, and we're gonna take it, you can take it out of this endowment, there's the word, the endowment, because that's what this endowment is supposed to pay for, is the maintenance in the building, and they get 60 to 65,000 in the endowment for maintenance, is what she had sent me. So if there's a repair over 65,000, then we'll look at it from there, but that's for their regular maintenance that they're supposed to be doing, their preventative maintenance and their regular maintenance. And then the Henry Hamel Fund, again, goes for all the children's sections of the library, it goes for the books and the reference material. It should not be used for videotapes except for video and audio material that are educational for the children's section. So, you know, Suzanne brought that to our attention, and that's where that should come out of then, because then they're using it for what it properly should be used for. If in case they're ever audited, then that's what it's used for, not the oil, because that's not part of that. Oil is not part of the maintenance. Okay, down. Wait, where'd you go? Go up. Oh, you catching me back up, sorry. So on to the employee benefits and town insurance. I have this at 10% due to what our consultants told us at the Board of Ed at our summit meeting, and we are actively shopping our health insurance to improve our numbers. So I have it at 10%. I'm hoping that when it comes in closer to 10. Okay. The retiree health insurance, those are for those who are not 65 yet but have retired from the town. And the Medicare is a 65 supplement. On to contingencies. We are finally putting back, after the whole ARPA, thank you, after the whole ARPA, we cleared out, we received that ARPA money. We cleared out, if you remember, our capital plan. We said we're gonna pay for everything out of this capital plan. So we put in 100,000 and I cut it down to 80,000, and we're gonna start building our capital plan that way. We have the money in there for our turf replacement fund of 75,000, that's gonna go into that. OPED trust, we will never put enough money into OPED trust, to run our town should we ever need it. So I cut that down from 10 to 5. Everything else pretty much stayed the same. On the town contingency, for general projects, we left that at 25, we put it in 25,000. As you can see, our year-to-dates of what we spent in fiscal 25, those are actuals up to February 28th. So we spent 18,000 so far this year, and we put in 25,000. Tax refunds and contingencies, We put in 15, we're at 10. Contingencies for the roads. If you remember, couple years now, that has been getting cut out of the budget. Every time the budget fails, we cut that out. We really can't cut that. So instead, we're gonna put in the 50,000 as opposed to 100 or 200,000 that we would normally put in. We're putting in 50,000. We really can't kick this can down the road anymore. We need to start investing in, getting back to reinvesting in our roads that we so worked on so hardly, going back to 2013, and getting the bonds and repairing our roads. It's time to start doing that again. So that money is in there for that. The community service is no longer in there. Contingency for fuel in case the gas prices spike, because you never know what's gonna happen. We put 15,000 in contingency for that. On our citizens tax relief, you will notice that there was 50,000 in there. The 50,000 in there was from the circuit breaker program that was mandated from the state, and then the state said, yep, we'll give you the money, and then the state says, well, you still have to mandate it, but we're gonna unfund it. We're no longer funding it. So it was at 50,000 for the longest time, and with everything going on, I said, let's put in 60,000, an additional 10,000. Hopefully every year we can either put $5,000 or $10,000 in more to help the seniors, or as I like to refer to them, the young at heart, because as inflation keeps going up, their Social Security checks are their Social Security checks, their pension checks are their pension checks. Just like we have to take care of our residents here, we have to take care of all our residents, from our youngest to our youngest at heart. We have to take care of all of them. And I think that's a start right there. Citizen tax release, okay. So now go down to the tax increase for the town is a 2.14%. Inflation is 3.0. I put a 3-point in for the Board of Education, and we'll talk about this later. I know in watching Dr. Compton, she put in 4.0, and the Board of Ed said 7.87, but I will get to that down the road, because I have to put a number in to get us to a mill rate. And you'll see with everything going on with the cars, as I explained in a little bit, you'll see why I put in the 3%. The grand list grew, as you'll see, the motor vehicles. Oh wait, are you gonna get that slide? Sorry. Oh, sorry. In column I, right? Right. The motor vehicle dropped by 7.51%. Personal property is up by 2.03%. Real estate reval is up by 42.67. Exemption went from $4.6 million to $13.3 million. That is driven by the real estate value is larger, but also changes that the state made to the disabled veterans. Line 14, overall motor vehicles are down $12,339.12, or otherwise 7.39%. Personal property is down $339,933, and real estate is up to $478 million. The grand list grew. The grand list is up 33.88%, or $466 million from last year. Our starting point should have been 27.12 mil, but what Hartford is doing with the cars and the real estate, we could not do it. What Hartford is doing, we'll on to my budget summary, then you'll see the expenses. Go down to the expenses. And revenue by category all broken out. Therefore, what I'm putting forth is a mill rate of 27.79. As I said, I put in a 3% increase by the Board of Ed to calculate the mill rate. If you go to the Hartford for the assessors. The real estate shift, residential, 2023. 86.1, 2024, it's up 87.32. So I broke it down by real estate is up 87%, commercial is up 4.68, industrial is 4.86, public utility as you can see, it's the numbers, that's where they are. The next slide. So what they're doing with the depreciation schedule, right, depreciation schedule, is they're moving the car taxes, slowly knocking it down to eventually put it onto the homeowners. So they're looking at, right now we're at a 70% assessment. They're looking to eventually make it a 90% assessment so that there are no car taxes and the burden is on homeowners. If you go to the next slide. Oh, it is, thank you, sorry. I put in the 3.0% because we need to put a fair, rate out there for everybody. 2.47 is a tax increase, and we try to keep, as we showed through our slides, we try to keep between a 2 and a 3% increase, right? 2.5 really is where we like to be. But with a 3.0 to the Board of Ed, a total increase expense of 2.66, it gives us a mill rate of 27.79. Every year that we go through our budget, right, we say, well, what if we give them this? What if we give the Board of Ed a 3%, a 4%, a 5%? And we have to keep going back and asking, what would the mill rate be? So we kind of just broke it out for the Board of Finance here. The Board of Ed with a 3% increase, it's a total increase of 2.47. 4.0 gives us a 28.01 mill rate. 3.28. 5% brings the mill rate up to 28.23. 6%, 28.45. And those are the increase, 2.47, 3.28. So it shows you how much of an increase it would be with the mill rate. Sort of to make it a little bit easier for those at home wondering what the mill rate would be if what we give the Board of Ed. Again, mine is only a suggested. Once I turn this suggested budget over to you, it is then up to you to decide what you want to do and up to the taxpayers. So I did the best I could in keeping our revenues up and our expenses down. So I'll take any questions from the board.
Okay, so let's go to the health insurance page.
Okay.
I just want to clarify something because there seems to be a large difference between what the Board of Education was looking for in a 20% versus what the town was looking for. So the number that you came up with for the health insurance, you said was 10%?
10%.
10%, okay. And that was calculated from talking to our our insurance consultant, all of that?
We have a consultant.
Yep.
They shop our insurance around. And they said if we stayed with the insurance company we're with now, we're looking at, a huge increase.
Mm-hmm.
So we have other insurance companies looking at, we're also looking at another way of doing the insurance. So they said go with closer to 10.
Okay.
So if again, with mine closer to 10, the number would come down. I'm sure if we get the closer to 10, again, we may not know that number until June, but then the Board of Ed's number will come down because that was a big thing for them, was that 20% was the health insurance.
Right. But that was my biggest concern out of this so far. All right. We're going to open up the table for questions, and we'll start with Lucy.
I think right now I'd like to be able to go through a little more before I go into.
Absolutely.
Jim.
No questions yet.
Bev.
I had one question. The economic director, you're not going to replace her, or you're letting her go?
No, that is yes, we're not replacing that position. That is position that as the first select person, they should be the person that is speaking to other businesses about meeting with other businesses and trying to help them with our EDC up in the state, trying to get them to help with us as well as getting grants.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it.
Okay. Kristen.
I'm all set for right now.
Carol.
All set for right now.
Okay. I too will need a little bit of time to digest all of this, and as we deliberate and look through this all, any questions that we have up here, we will send them to Jason, who will get them over to you. And I don't have any further questions.
Well, I will be at all the meetings, so I can answer questions.
Oh, you're going to come? Okay, great.
To deliberate.
So we won't even have to do that. Perfect.
Try to make it easy.
Okay. Does anybody else up here have any questions or comments before we move on? No? You guys down there? You good? Okay. Okay, so with that, we're going to move on to item number 5, which is our second public comment of the evening. Second public comment. And with public comment, 2 minutes, state your name and address for the record. All public comment must be directed to the chair.
Just a quick comment. Teresa Conroy, 177 Skokrat Street. Yes, Pop Warner is no longer the league in Seymour, but we do have the American Youth Football.
Yes.
So I'm not sure, if they haven't notified you yet, but we will have a football league in town. It's similar to Pop Warner, but from what I hear is, I guess the league is more, the size of the groups that they'll be playing are more like Seymour size. They won't be having cities that they're competing against that have, bigger kids or bigger pools to pull from.
Right.
So that's why they made that transition, is the best to my knowledge.
Yes.
So if you can just move that money back in, that would be great when you're doing your deliberations. Thank you.
Okay. Next public comment. Name and address for the record.
Jack Czerkowski, 9 Amber Drive. I didn't want to disappoint you, Rich, and stay silent tonight, but I'm not going to talk about what you think I'm going to talk about.
No, go for it.
I wanted to talk about the process at the town meeting, because I saw 2 real flaws last time around. The first thing was that when people were coming in, there was no checking of their eligibility to vote in the town meeting. The town staff went around the auditorium and were flipping pages to see if people were eligible. So the meeting was like 20 minutes late in starting, while we all sat there and watched this process unfold. So I would suggest that they check eligibility at the door as people are coming in to get the meeting to start on time. The second thing was the way the vote was conducted. I was very displeased because I made a motion to reduce the Board of Ed budget, and my motion passed by maybe 2 votes. Then there was a big huddle up on the stage. Some of the people of the Board of Selectmen came in, finance people came in, and it was announced that, oh, gee, we have to re-vote because the 2 people who were counting the votes that were by hand had different numbers. So at this day and age, I think we should, at the very least, have a piece of paper where people write yes or no and drop it into a single box, and the votes be counted that way, so there cannot be a discrepancy between people voting. Because in the re-vote, there was a gap in time, and a few additional people came into the auditorium. They happened to be Board of Education budget supporters. So my motion now, instead of passing by a couple of votes, failed by maybe 2 or 3 votes because additional people came in. Were they qualified to vote? Who knows? Were they checked at the door? We don't know. I just think that whole thing was a flaw in the process that we should address this year.
Okay.
No,
It
that's
is
it.
noted.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Are you referring to last year's budget process or the year before? Because I think the year before
I think it was,
was at the middle school. Last
think
year
it
we
was-
were at the community center,
yeah, it was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Okay, thank you. Okay, public comment.
Again, I don't want to disappoint.
State your name and address for the record.
John Lombardo, 31 Union Street.
How you doing?
Again, I don't want to disappoint you either, but this is my opinion. I don't want anybody to think that I'm speaking for other people, even though people in town may share my opinion. I haven't seen all the details. This is the first time I've seen the detail of this, but it seemed like it was really very well thought out, and they did their due diligence through it. And it was very clear, and I can see that if I see that spreadsheet and when it's posted and we can look at it, we're going to be able to see all the pieces. So, and I think if you're beating inflation, unfortunately, taxes are taxes. They're going to go up, and the state's not helping us. So I think it's pretty responsible. And I'm not gonna talk about the Board of Ed budget anymore, 'cause, they're not here. So, but I think this was very well done, and I applaud the town departments and the first Selectwoman for actually making it very clear, much clearer than they have been in the past. Okay, thank
Excellent.
you.
Thank you. Public comment. Public comment going twice. Public comment going 3 times. Hearing no further public comment, we will close public comment and move to item number 6, which is correspondence. Jason, you know the question. Love letters?
I haven't received anything.
No. Excellent. Has anybody up here received any correspondence? No, I have not either. Thank you. Okay, item number 7, new business. Let us turn our attention to our schedule. We will have our first deliberation on Monday, March 10th. And as we have stated throughout the process, we will discuss the expenditure side of the budget on March 10th. Then on Wednesday, March 12th, we will hold another deliberation to discuss revenues. Monday, March 17th, we will discuss the Board of Education and possibly start putting a little bit of this together. And then on Wednesday, March 19th, we will have hopefully what will be our final deliberation to put it all together finally and make our recommendation to send it out for our public hearing. With that, the public hearing date. Have we come up with anything? I know we have to have it done before April 10th. Yes, so have we settled on a date?
We haven't settled on one yet, but we'll have one on Monday.
Okay, excellent. So then we will take action on that on Monday to set our public hearing date. And that will be the public hearing where members from the public can come and give us their thoughts and opinions on the budget that we put together after our final deliberations. Then from there, we will make our recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, who will then send it to the town meeting. Any questions up here on that? All right, we're getting there. We're moving along very nicely. All right, that we will. Does anybody else have any new business up here before we close this out? Everybody okay down there? Excellent. The time is 7:48, and we will close this public hearing. Thank you for coming. We'll see you all next week. It's here. I got it.